For almost 20 years, football taught us to see Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi as rivals. Two shirts, two countries, two completely different footballing identities. And almost every time one of them stepped onto a pitch, the question was the same. Who is better? But this week, none of that mattered. Because Lionel Messi wasn't being talked about as a footballer, he was being talked about as a son. On August 8th, Messi's father, Jorge Messi, died in Rosario at the age of 68 after a prolonged illness. Jorge wasn't simply Messi's father. He had been his representative and one of the most important people behind his football journey. And when Messi finally spoke publicly about the loss, his words revealed just how much his father meant to him. He described the difficulty of imagining never seeing him again, never speaking to him again, and perhaps most painfully, he admitted that he wasn't sure how long he would continue playing football without his father beside him. Think about that for a moment. For years, we have watched Messi carry enormous pressure on a football pitch. World Cups, Champions League nights, Barcelona, Argentina, the Ballon d'Or. Millions of people expecting something from him every time he touched the ball. But behind all of that was one person whose message after a match mattered to him: his father. Messi even revealed that during the recent World Cup, he would finish matches and wait for his father's message. And when that message wasn't there, he felt the seriousness of what was happening. That's the part of this story that changes everything. Because while the world was watching Messi the superstar, Messi was thinking about his father. And then came Cristiano Ronaldo. For nearly 2 decades, these two men have been placed on opposite sides of football's biggest argument. Ronaldo versus Messi, Real Madrid versus Barcelona, Portugal versus Argentina, power versus precision, goals versus genius. Fans spent years arguing over who was greater. But Ronaldo didn't enter that conversation. He didn't talk about trophies. He didn't mention records. He didn't bring up the rivalry. He simply left a message for Messi. A huge hug to you and your loved ones during these difficult times, Leo. Stay strong. Just a few words. But sometimes a few words are enough. Because Ronaldo knows something about losing a father. His own father, Jose Aveiro, died in 2005. So perhaps this wasn't Cristiano Ronaldo speaking to Lionel Messi, the footballer. Perhaps it was simply one son speaking to another. One person who understands that there are moments when football becomes completely irrelevant. No rivalry can prepare you for losing a parent. No trophy can replace them. And no amount of goals can make that silence disappear. That's why this moment feels different. For years, the football world created a rivalry around these two men. But maybe the rivalry was never the whole story. Because underneath the competition was something much more human. Respect. They pushed each other. They challenged each other. They made each other better. And now, at a moment when Messi needed support, Ronaldo didn't hesitate to offer it. The reaction from fans showed just how powerful the moment was. On Reddit, Ronaldo's comment became one of the most heavily discussed football posts almost immediately, with thousands of reactions praising the gesture and pointing out how the rivalry suddenly felt irrelevant. And that's what makes this story bigger than an Instagram comment. It's about what happens when the greatest sporting rivalry of a generation meets something bigger than sport. Grief, family, and time. Because one day the stadium lights go off, the cameras disappear. The trophies stay in museums. The statistics remain on Wikipedia. But what remains for a person? For Messi, one of the answers was his father. Jorge was there long before the Ballon d'Ors, before the World Cups, before the millions of fans, before the debates. He was there when Lionel was simply a boy with a football dream. And now, Messi has to face football without the person whose voice he expected to hear after every match. That's why his question about continuing his career matters. It's not simply about age. It's not simply about football. It's about whether the game still feels the same when someone who helped make the journey possible is no longer there to share it with you. And perhaps that's why Ronaldo's message landed differently. Because Ronaldo understands what it means to lose that person. He knows that football can keep moving even when your personal world suddenly stops. The next match still comes. The training session still begins. The cameras are still waiting. But inside, everything has changed. And maybe that's the detail we often miss when we watch football. We see the goals. We see the celebrations. We see the trophies. But we don't always see the people behind the player. The father who drove him to training. The mother who believed. The family member who called after the match. The person waiting when the stadium emptied. That's the human story behind the football story. And for once, Ronaldo and Messi weren't opponents. Stay strong. Maybe that's the real ending to the greatest rivalry football has ever seen. Not one player defeating the other. Not one final statistic settling the debate. But two legends, at the end of an extraordinary era, reminding the world that some things are bigger than football. Because when the final whistle eventually comes for every player, it's not the goals people remember most. It's the people who were there before anyone was watching. And for Lionel Messi, his father was one of them. Rest in peace, Jorge Messi.